Hey guys, Nuka here. Now in this video, I want to talk about and show you the Ambient Weather Adventure Emergency Radio, which is the WR-111 Alpha. The reason I want to talk about this Ambient Weather Radio is first to show you everything about it to see if this is the type of radio you want, and secondly, for those of you that do not have an emergency radio, you should be asking yourself, why? If you're asking me why, I will tell you that the reason you should have one is based off history. If you look at it, when it comes to SHTF, one of the more plausible things, events that happen, is weather disturbances. Whether it's tornado, hurricane, blizzards, you name it. That can be one of the more plausible stuffing in the fan situations. So today we're going to go over this radio. I just went over the box for you, so that way you can kind of just see all the features that came with it. I usually like to do that because this was a physical product that I got from Amazon itself. And the amount I paid for it was $40. So you're probably going to sit there asking yourself, why should I pay $40 for this little tiny radio? Well, I'm going to show you all the benefits and features that it comes with, and maybe you'll think that $40 isn't too much, or maybe you'll be able to find it somewhere cheaper. If so, please post a comment so everyone else can find out. So the next thing we'll talk about will be the instruction manual. If you notice here, it says that it has connections to AM, FM, and the NOAA, which stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's a federal agency that, I guess you could say, specializes in weather conditions. And when you open up the instruction manual, if you notice here, it has pictures that are colored. It also has arrowheads leading, displaying what is what and exactly how can it be used. So I can tell you right off the bat, the instruction manual is very easy and simplistic to understand. Not too confusing, and actually some good useful information here to prolong the life of your product. So it comes with that. As well, look at the radio itself. One thing you'll notice is it looks relatively small, and it does. So to help drive that home for you, I'm just going to take pretty much a standard pin, place it on top, and that should give you a point of reference of about how wide this radio is. Already, this radio should scream out to you, bug out radio. But if that's not enough for you, I have some more. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the back first. Because on the back you notice this little red tab here. So we know this is where the battery compartment is pretty much. And when we open the case and pull this off, what you see inside there is pretty much a rechargeable lithium battery. So when we remove the little pull tab, this here, since we're already on the back, this is the crank for the radio. There are 3 ways you can charge this radio. You notice the rechargeable battery, so you have a crank, you can actually charge it up, the old school style. You have solar powered, or obviously you stick it in the sun or in direct sunlight, you can get some charging that way. And then over here towards the back, we have 3 ports. You have your head jack port, so if you want to listen to the radio on your own with the head jack, not disturb your family, you can do that. You have a out charge port to where the charge goes out, and with the appropriate connections you can charge multiple things, which we'll take a look at here in a second. And then you have your input charge. This way you can charge the radio either by your laptop computer or a DC, like the AC outlet plug, or you can use a car charger, provided you have the proper connections. So there are 3 separate ways you can charge it, which I found to be very useful. Now another thing you probably noticed in the front was the flashlight. It has a flashlight with it, LED. So I don't want to blind you, but let's take a look. And you can just press the button one time, and you can use it as a continuous flash. You don't have to hold down the button the whole time. So that's pretty useful. And of course, being that's a radio, has a nice telescope antenna to help get a better range. Has a nice little rugged, smooth appearance, so it seems pretty well constructed actually. This was crafted in China, but it actually feels like good solid material. It also has a lanyard, so if you're ever on the go, once again, a bug out or what have you, you can lanyard and tie this around one of your belt loops or whatever you have available, and that way it can just kind of dangle with you. And it's really not that heavy at all, so that could actually be a useful lanyard to have. And so now that we're looking at the front, you notice this nice little speaker here, as well as the power button, volume, tune, and mode button. So we'll go ahead and whip out the antenna and see if we can't pick a couple things up here. Should be able to. So let's turn this bad boy on. Alright, so we have some power right now. See, we're on 87, so let's just keep messing with this FM. Let's see what we find here.
It gave me what I needed.
Or something.
It gives me what I need in order to write a song.
You can see the volume.
I think playing or improvising on the piano is where I feel
you can actually crank it up quite loud. I don't know how far it goes up there, but that sounds pretty loud already.
Conscious of all my insecurities.
So that's FM. Let me check the modes here. AM. And then we have the weather station. Sorry, let me turn that down some. Then we have the weather station. Let's see what we can find with that. There we go. And so there you go. Now you can hear the weather station and any type of information they want to display. So that could be very useful. And it's pretty much anywhere you can get a signal at. That's where you can listen to the weather station. So that's pretty much just a little practical use there. And one thing I've noticed is that the screen stays blue, which I can only assume because it's backlit, it's using up more power. So to help remedy that, what I recommend you do is when you're using this, if you go to the back here, you just open the case, take the battery out, put it right back in, and then you'll notice when we get back to the front here, the screen is now clear, which I can only assume uses less energy than when it had the blue screen. So those are just a neat little features that the ambient radio comes with. And so I have to say again, if this doesn't scream bug out to you, well, I have something else to show you. Let's go ahead and take a look at these power connections. In this bag over here comes with a whole bunch of useful power connections that you can have, which can charge about probably almost anything you have. This connector right here is pretty much for the input charge. This is what you use to actually charge the radio with. And then this connector is actually used for the output charge. You plug this back into the end of the radio in the back where I showed you, and then this here would be the output connector. So if you have something that was already connected to your device and has a USB on the end, you can charge that. As well, it has a couple other ones I'll just show real quick in case you have these fittings. Not sure if you don't. All cell phones and tablets and what have you come with different type of charging connections. But these two are familiar as well. And then one you're probably very familiar with, the iPhone charger. And this is for the pretty much the iPhone 4S and I believe the iPad 2 and below, the old connector style. They have that as well that you can connect and get a charge off of. So let's go ahead and put that to use, and we'll see what we come up with. Also here, which I didn't really show too well, on this display tab here, they have pictures, kind of break it down for you to make it simple. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But this here is the headphone picture. This is a cell phone picture, so the charge going out. And this here is a USB picture, so this is the charge coming in. So we're going to stick it in the middle one for the charge going out. Now I've actually used this on the iPhone, and it does work. But the one thing I've been curious about is the iPad. So we're going to plug this up, see if it works here. First of all, let's take a look just to make sure it's still good. Yep, so 54% battery life. Oh, knocked the camera there for a second. So then when I plug it in, okay, I heard the noise. I don't know if you heard that. And now if you can see, it's being charged. How long will it charge it for and how well? I don't know. But I at least know I can get some type of charge on it. Probably won't be that long, but it's better than nothing. And what this is really useful for, really, is for the phone. So if you ever need to make an emergency phone call and towers are working, you can do that. Or if there's certain things you need to do with your iPad or your iPod, hopefully you can generate enough energy to where you can use it. But I wouldn't necessarily count on this as being your only source for power. I'll just put it to you like that. But in any event, looking at this ambient temperature radio, it has to be, once again, screaming out to you, bug out item. It has to. So now I want to talk to you about the hand crank power for the radio. If you leave the battery in like it is right now, without putting that pull tab back in, which I don't recommend you do, but if you leave it like this, the battery's going to die. Once the battery has died, in order to use it again for initial use, you would have to crank the battery up, or solar power if you have it, but you'd also have to crank the battery up at 2 cranks per second for about 3 to 5 minutes, just so the battery's back to initial use. As well, if you want to use the flashlight, for instance, once you've already got the initial use pattern out of the way, you have to crank it for 1 minute at 2 cranks per second, and that will give you 70 minutes of battery power for the flashlight. Or that 1 minute crank could give you about 20 minutes of continuous radio usage, depending on what broadcast you're listening to. The weather radio is going to use up more power than the FM AM. And of course, it also depends on how loud you have the volume on. That's also going to take effect. Or you can use that 1 minute crank charge for about 3 to 5 minutes of charge time for a cell phone, depending what cell phone you're using. So if you kind of look at it, if something were to happen, if stuff were to hit the fan, you at least have a backup solar power you can charge it with. Well, now if you have no sun, it's nighttime, you need the charge, you can hand crank it. And then with that hand crank, you can use that charge to charge up other devices. This is why I like this radio. This is why this radio, for the last time I'm going to say, needs to be in your bug out bag or in your preps period, because it's good for bunkering down at your home, or it's good for on the road. You can't beat this. It has way too much redundancy built into one product for you to pass this up. $40. That's pretty steep. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to pay $40. But I know I needed a weather radio. And the fact that I can hand crank and use solar power or use a wall charger with a rechargeable battery inside, that sold me. It should sell you too. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and buy it. I'm not making, this ambient weather company is not paying me money to display this product. It's just, once again, I just want to make sure that you are a well-rounded prepper, that you have everything. Food and water is awesome. You got to have that. But there's also more to it when the stuff hits the fan that you want to have. That just helps you. This weather radio right here has got to be part of your preps. I don't see how it couldn't be. So that's pretty much just my little sum up, my little review over this ambient weather radio. I think it's a great buy. The choice now is up to you about what you want to do with it. And if you guys have any comments about it or any other experience with this radio, or if you feel there's a better product out there, please, by all means, post in the comments section. This way we can all read it. This way we can all be well-rounded. And like I've said before, the more people that prep, the better off the world will be. So once again, guys, rate, comment, subscribe. And as always, I will see you soon. Later.